G'day and welcome back to Australian Natural Hide Tanning. Today I'd like to talk to you about graining and other different steps, different methods, different things. Graining, what is it? A few of you out there on my Facebook page have asked, what's graining? You know, how do I achieve it? This is what graining is, okay? When you have a hide and you take the hair or the fur or wool or whatever it is off it, and you don't go to the next step, that's all you do is just gently remove the hair. You leave a film, okay? It's called the grain, and that's the grain here. See? Okay, that's skin, that's grain. You see the shiny part of the skin? That's the grain that's left on. Okay, why leave the grain on? Well, if you're going to make a pair of boots, you might want to have them nice and shiny, and that's how you know the grain has been left on. You know, people leave the grain on for multiple reasons, not just one. In traditional buckskinning, what we do is we take the grain off. Okay, we don't leave it on, we take it off. And when we take it off in the same process while we're taking the hair off. It's just so much easier. With this one, I was experimenting on a few things. I can't use it with grain on because, as you see, some parts of it, the grain has come off. Okay, that came off in the process while I was taking the fur off. This one here, this is a deer. Okay. And that's pretty much what you call a grain. When you leave the grain on and you tan it, the tannin will go through this side, but it won't go through this side. Okay, so it'll take a little bit more tanning, not a great deal, you know, not a great deal more energy, just a little bit more. It's probably a personal preference of whether you want to keep the grain on or not. As I say, in traditional buckskinning, what we do is we take the grain off completely. Okay, it's a little bit, this becomes a little bit softer than this, a little bit nicer to work. Okay, so yeah, if you ever see anything with traditional leather, you know, you'll see a lot of times they'll leave the grain on, they won't take the grain off. Bear in mind, they just remember that with what we do with natural tanning, this is not an actual tanning process, it's more of a curing process. It's when we cure the skin, we don't actually tan it, we don't actually make it into leather. Okay, when you make it into a leather, it's called veggie tanning. When you do veggie tanning, you're turning your hide into a leather. Okay, when you do natural hide tanning, where you're using eggs or brains or whatever else you're using, you're not actually turning into a leather, you're curing the hide. Okay, that's the big difference between leather and buckskin, is this is cured, where leather has been turned from one substance into another. Yeah, from a skin into actual leather. So that's the grain. You know, I would say experiment. You know, I'm not doing it with this one because, as I said, in the process of taking the hair off it, I was a little bit too rough with the fleshing knife, and I did take some of the grain off. So I said, oh, I'll just take it off. I'll just take all the grain off. What I'll do here with this is I would just rehydrate it, wash it, rehydrate it, put it back on the beam, and I'll just get rid of all the grain. And when I do that, the skin will come up, and it'll be just like this. When you do, if you keep the grain on and you smoke it, still smoke both sides, but also remember the smoke won't completely penetrate through this side. Okay, you have to do it from this side. Okay, so that's graining. All right, if I was going to vegetan this, what I would have done is I would have taken the hair off it, left the grain on, and put it in the solution. For one of these, it would take probably, this, as I said, this is a deer skin, probably about 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. You know, remember, if you're experimenting with vegetanning, just start it off. Don't put it into a really strong solution first off. Just build the solution up. This one here, this is a traditional buckskin. You know, I've taken all the grain off, I've taken all the hair off. If you have a look at this one, this is one I did in the very early stages, and that shows you how long these skins will last. They will last, oh look, they've got skins from over 1,000 years ago. You know, so under the right conditions, skins will last a long, long time. If you have a look here, okay, that's not a stain, that's actually the grain that I never took off. Now, when you do the graining process, go over your hide and make sure you get rid of all those bits of grain. Okay? With these things, I experiment a lot with my skins to see what I can get away with, what I can't get away with. Now, graining, leaving little bits of grain on like that, you won't get away with it. You know, you'll have problems later on. This is a goat skin. This is not a deer skin, it's actually a goat skin. Goat skins are a lot thinner than deer skins, but very, very durable. Really, really good skins. But if you get one, make sure it's not a male that's over 2 years old, or else the skin will stink, it will smell. It's not a putrid smell, it's just a goat smell. What I do with mine is I will bathe them in bicarb. I'll wash them in bicarb. That helps. You'll never actually, a really bad one, you'll never get rid of the smell completely. You know, but wash them in bicarb, and that bicarb helps. You know, just remember, if you rub bicarb on the skin that's not finished, bicarb is a alkaline, and it will alkaline the skin up. Okay. With tanning, you need your skin to be acidic. When you go and do your graining, you know, when you know, if you watch the YouTube and that, they show you how you put it into lime, hydraulic lime, and you leave it in there for 3 or 4 days, and then you pick at the skin and etc. What that does is it alkalines your skin. Okay, now alkalining makes it a little bit more, and I can't go into it because I can't go into it because I don't fully understand the full technical jargon of it. But I have been told by tanners, you know, that have worked in tanneries, that the more acidic your skin is, the further in the tannin will go. When you're tanning it, the further your solution will go in. Yeah, I like to have mine about in between 3 and 5. Yeah, I think 2.5, 3 is an optimum. Yeah, so that's why if you watch my video, you know, not so much with fur on, but when you take your fur off, in the video I'll show you how to acidic, you know, the skin, so as the formula will go further back in. Because as I say, especially if you use lime, it does alkaline the skin, and you want an acidic skin to help with the tanning. But over here we've got the fur on. Now, one of the reasons I wanted to show you this is fully tanned. This is all ready to go. You know, this is a deer skin. You know, beautiful little deer skin. You do quite often lose from the edges here. You know, but just remember with deer, you're always losing a little bit of fur. the hair's always, that's why you very rarely see someone that's made a coat and left the fur on, because the fur does keep falling out. Okay, now I got this one because one of the things you can do when you've taken your grain off, and when you've taken the flesh off and the fat. Now what I do is I take the flesh off, I take the fat off, I clean it all up, and then I hang it out. I put it on my stretching frame and I stretch it. But I make sure it's all clean. You know, if there's an area that's got a little bit of, you know, like you might feel it and say, oh, that's got oil on it, just give it a wash. But once I've taken the flesh and the fat off it, I'll stretch it and it'll dry. Now it'll dry hard. You know, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it'll. See, I did that with this one. You can hear it's crinkly, but some of them dry reasonably soft where you can pack them up easily. Others just dry hard. Okay. Now, when you get to that stage, all you need to do to, if you can't go on to the next stage, just wrap it up, put it into a bag or something. That's all you need to do. Fold it like that. Okay, put it into a bag and put it away somewhere secure. You don't need to freeze it. You don't need to do anything. It won't go off. Okay, as you can see with this one. You know, I did that with this one. So all we do is put in the bag. This one unfortunately had a hole in the bag that I didn't know about, and as you can see, I'll get onto this in a minute, and the bugs got into it. But put it into a bag and you can leave it there until you're ready. You know, if you can't flesh it, you put it back into the freezer or you resalt it. You know, because you can't have the flesh going rotten. Okay, with this one over here, what happened here, as you can see, some of the fur's falling out. You know, it's still, you know, still all right. It's just that the bugs got in, and that's the worst thing for any skins, is when the bugs get in. Okay, because they will wreak havoc. I've fleshed him, I've done everything for him, you know, I did it all right, but when I put in a bag, I didn't know the bag had a hole in it, and they got in. But saying that, this is not wrecked. This skin here is still good. Okay, what I can do is rehydrate him, and I think this is a kangaroo. I just rehydrate him, and then take the fur off, take the grain off, and I can still use him. With these bits here, they're weak spots. You'll get a skin and you'll think, oh mate, this is going to be awesome, absolute awesome skin. But most of the skins come from animals that live out in paddocks, so they get damaged. And you might look at a skin and think, oh, that's a really good skin. You start tanning it and you just get holes everywhere. You know, because bugs bite them, which are weak spots. You know, ticks can do the same thing. Mosquitoes. So what I will do with this one is, when I'm ready, is I would pick out the worst bits. As you can see, it's a funny shaped skin. So what I'll do is I'll cut this off, and that off. It's not much there left to tan, but this is enough to do a pillow, you know, for your lounge. With these lots, what I'll do is I'll take before I do that, I'll take the fur off, and I'll take the grain off. These lots I put in to a container until I have enough. Then I'll melt them down. And what I mean by melting them is I'll boil them down, and I'll get the glue out of them, and I'll make glue. And the glue is very, very, very strong. very strong. But just remember, the glue is not waterproof. That's why we got the PVC glues and that. But this type of glue, animal glue, has been used for thousands of years. But the only problem they had with it was it's not waterproof. Just remember that if you're going to go and make your own glue. So with this, I won't throw it away. Even if this whole thing was no good and I can't do anything with it, I'll just cut up into strips and I'll boil it. A bit of water and I'll boil it and I'll make glue out of it. So no hide. Even if you think, oh, this hide is wrecked, there is always something you can do with your hide. You know, there was always a use for it. Which brings me on to Australian natural hide tanning. When I made this, I made it purely, really, I found it so difficult. Yeah, especially being here in Australia, I found it so difficult to learn anything. No one wanted to share their knowledge. No one wanted to do, yeah, it's very much a secret squirrel society. So with that, I thought, no, I've got to make a living, but I also want to show people that if things happen in the world, you can still keep warm. You know, you can still produce a lot of things yourself. You know, and with what's going on in the world now, I sort of think, what's going to happen if you can't buy clothes, bags, hats, anything? You know, with what I've got in here, I'll show you. You know, they're little tricks that aren't really tricks. I mean, you know, they've been, or some things that have been lost through reading a lot of books, a lot of information, and it took a couple of years to really perfect it, and that's where I want to share my knowledge. Yeah, so if you find it difficult, please get a copy. One of the things I can't and I've never done is I've never gone and bought, you know, you get tanning kits, you know, chemical tanning kits. I've never bought that. And the main reason I've never bought that, because I've always thought, no, if something goes belly up and I can't get those chemicals, I'm buggered. How am I going to tan? How am I going to make clothes? You know, how am I going to make a bed, wear you know, a bed sheet to keep warm at night? You know, here in winter, I mean, we whinge and bitch because it gets down to 9 degrees. Yeah, we think we're dying. So we don't know what cold is. But in summer it gets around about, you know, we've just come through 42, 43 degree heat. You know, but the thing as I'm trying to explain is learn how to do it naturally. You know, in my video I show you use brains. You know, you can use brains. We don't up here because it's too hot. They go off so quick. They actually go off while you're putting them on. But I do show you how to use them. Eggs. You can use chook eggs and the lecithin style. You know, you can use lecithin. You know, which is lecithin's been used for a lot of different things. I prefer lecithin up here because it doesn't go off. You know, even eggs, you got to be a little bit quick with eggs in summertime here. But there are many different ways of tanning. So if you can find a way to tan, I recommend it. You know, you don't need to do it in your whole, you know, everyday life, but it is a really good thing to, a really good knowledgeable thing to know. All right, well, I hope this has helped you. I hope I explained a few things for you. Don't forget, check out our links, push the like button, subscribe, all the links are below, share, and check out our webpage. You know, on our webpage you can buy our DVD, We are also in the process of putting skins up, so you can buy a salted skin right the way through to one that's been smoked, and all you need to do is make something out of it. So check them out. Thank you. We'll catch you next time.